Mary's Eclectic Interests. One of our traditions in our family was wild rice casserole, and I'll be preparing that today. All you need is 1 pound of hamburger, and this is 85% lean, so I know there's going to be grease, and over on the side I have a bunch of paper towels and a drainer so that I can get that out. So what we need for this recipe is 1 pound of hamburger, 1/2 cup of chopped onions, 1/2 cup of celery diced, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. In the very back, there's 2 3/4 cups of wild rice, actually a little bit more because I had some left over and I just threw it in, and 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Fortunately, they now put wild rice in a can. I used 2 cans of this wild rice, and this is 15 ounces. I drained the wild rice in a drainer, and it ended up being a little bit over 2 3/4 cups. So the little bit extra, I did throw it in because I didn't want to waste it. So this came, yes, from a can. Isn't that exciting? The first 5 ingredients, you just throw it all in your skillet, and I'm going to turn my skillet on here. And everything goes in the skillet. All the first 5 ingredients. That will be the hamburger, this, and this. It's all going to go in here. And what I'm going to do is break up the hamburger before I put in the other ingredients. Now, as I said, this is 85% lean, so there will be grease involved. And I'm using the biggest skillet I have, which is one of those great big cast iron ones, but you don't need to use a cast iron skillet. It's just what I had as far as one that was high enough up that I could put all of this stuff in here. In our family, this was adjusted from my cousin's recipe. My mom knew what we liked and what we didn't like. So she cut down on the celery, knowing we don't care for it. But if you like a lot of celery, you can put more celery in. She knew we didn't care for cream of mushroom soup, which was the original recipe. And so she switched it to cream of chicken soup. So you can always makeshift your recipes to incorporate what your family likes. And the other good thing about this recipe, you can make it up and you can freeze it. And she did that quite a lot, knowing we'd be coming into town. She'd prep it, put it all together, stick it up in the freezer, and then she would just take it out and cook it when we got there. So then she didn't have to do it all in one day. It's always nice to have those meals that you can make up and freeze. Now this is a lot for one person. So what I'm going to be doing once this starts cooking is that I'm going to move this so I don't knock it. I have 2 of these containers here. So I'm just going to put wild rice in one of them, enough for myself, and actually cook that. For me, it goes in the oven. It will go in for 350 degrees for 45 minutes. But I'm not actually sure if that 45 minutes was when it was frozen or just after you added everything. I have a feeling it was just the regular, not the frozen, because it would take a lot longer if it was frozen. And then I have another identical container, and I'll put that in the freezer. That way someday I'll just take it out and make it some cold winter day. Now I don't like cooking this here, mainly because it's not on the stove and I don't have an air vent here, which I would prefer doing that on the stove, but it just, to get the cameras all over there and everything else, it would be a real struggle. Now I have this about on, I would say, a medium heat on this little hot plate. And I'm going to keep moving this around because I want those. But I'm thinking it would be 45 minutes because it probably would take that long for the celery and everything to finish cooking up. I'll give you an update on that when I finish the show. Because this is something I never made. This is something I went over to the house and it was always made and I just sat down and ate it. But the original recipe comes from we call it up north in Minnesota, from the farm community of Kellier, Minnesota. And it's fun because they have, in those small communities, they always made up local cookbooks. So it's fun for me to go through the cookbook and I'm going, oh, there's a cousin, there's a cousin, there's a cousin. Oh, there's my aunt. And so I still have the cookbook. It's sitting over, you can see it on my freezer. And what's nice is I could see the corrections my mom made, or the changes my mom made in this meal. Now I'm going to go turn the oven on at 350 and get that warmed up. Okay, I just preheated, set it for my oven to be at 350. And I remembered to wear my apron today. Okay, what I'm bringing over here is some water. Because in the recipe, once you get the Campbell or the soup in, and if you have a different brand of soup you want to use, that's fine. I just wanted the old-fashioned flavor of what I was used to, so that's what I picked up. But when it gets all together, then you add water. And since I'm not sure how much water to do, and I'm going to cheat on this too, I know I bought a whole bunch of aluminum cooking sheets. And that's what I'm looking for so I can mix this up, because I'm going to need something much larger than what I have. It's almost done. I want to make sure all that hamburger is cooked and not raw. And you can see how much of the grease is in here, and I don't want that in the actual meal. Oh, I think it's pretty well on the done side. See, it doesn't take very long to do this. Now this is going to be the hard part. I'm going to have to take this pan and bring it over so I can get the, and I'll tell you, this pan is not light. There. I have to use two hands here. There we go. And the only reason I have to do it this way is I have to get rid of this and unplug it. There we go. And put this in a safe place where it can't start a fire. And here's my drainer, and as I said, I've lined it with paper towels. There we go. And let's get all of that in there. Whoops, and I walked away without these. Now this is going to be interesting because you have to, I can't lift this. I used to be able to. So I'm going to have to spoon this all out from here into here. can just see all of that grease down there. Okay. Now I can get rid of this. And what I'm going to do is just squeeze that grease out of here. Just, oh, there's the oven. So you can see I'm squeezing all of that. You can actually see it on the bottom here. Look at all that grease. We don't need that in the casserole. And I brought this over just so I have something to mix everything together. Just in case the grease comes out the end. Wow, look at all that grease. That's a lot of grease. Okay, let's get rid of that. And let's pour this in here as my mixing base. And basically it says, and if you want, you could put slivered almonds on top. And I don't have one. Actually, I was quite surprised. I have just about every nut here. Walnuts, pecans, peanuts. I thought for some reason I had some almonds. Well, no. So there will not be any almonds. Now this is going to be the interesting part because now I have to get that Campbell's soup. You can see how big. And I wanted you to see how large of a, this makes a large pan. And we had, how many people did we? I think we had 8 people eating this. Of course, there was all kinds of other things that we ate too. Okay, that's pretty much all of the cream of chicken soup. We'll get this all mixed in here. I think I'm going to need a different kind of spoon for that. Maybe the spatula would be better. And I'm going to throw a little bit of water because it does say add some water, but I'm not going to put very much in. Now I wish I would have watched my mom when she actually made this. And I'm slopping, there goes the, I'm losing the wild rice on the side that was extra. As I'm thinking of it that way. This all has to be mixed together. Let's add a little bit more water. Just enough to help mix. And I want to get that completely intermixed with the other ingredients. And I'm surprised it just says 1, but it just says 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Boy. Let's try and spread this out. All right, here comes the final instructions. Pour. It says use water. 1 can, okay, add enough water to cover. Now to me that means add water enough to cover all the way through. So I'm not measuring this, I'm just throwing it in. And I think that's why you have to put this in the oven for 45 minutes. Because you want to get rid of a lot of that liquid. because there's a lot of liquid in there. I think I have more on one end than the other. Let's see if I can mix it over. But fortunately for me, the almonds were optional. Is take part of it. Let's see if I can do this. And I'm going to put it in this bowl. But I want some of that liquid down there too. I'm just going to make half of it. Here's about my halfway mark. Now this is going to last me days. It's one thing when you're cooking for one, it's not much fun. Okay, I have to get some of that liquid out of there without that whole thing going with it. Yeah, it's going to go with. So how am I going to get that out of there? How about if I tip it this way and scoop it out? I think that's pretty darn good. And now this one, I'm going to fill this up. Here we go. And this one will be going into the freezer. I think I have more water in this one than the other one. Here. And of course I always have to clean up all my mess. Ooh, that's good hamburger. We're going to put that in. And that's some wild rice. Let's get that off of this tablecloth before. All right, let's get a little bit of this and put it in here. There we go. Now I have two. This one is going in the oven. Since it's so much less than normally would be cooked, I'm just going to start out with a half an hour and see what happens. This one, I'm sealing it. I'm going to put this like this. Thought about taking this, bringing this into CCX, but I knew I was going to eat part of it and there's not enough there for everyone. There. And of course I'm going to label it. Wild rice casserole. And the date. Sometimes I just put the month, sometimes I put the actual date. Here's my wild rice. Here's what it looks like. It took 1 hour in my oven. And I am going to have this for my lunch. As you know, I use canned wild rice, and even as such, I don't think they fully cook it all the way through. It was a little on the crunchy side. So after about an hour, it is where I like it. Not soggy, not crunchy, just right in between. All of the celery is done. The onions are done. So this is what it looks like. And it tastes great. Welcome to Mary's Eclectic Interest. Today we're going to be making oatmeal date bars. What I have here is 1.5 cups of flour, a pinch of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and this is 3/4 cups of Crisco. We're going to add to that 1.5 cups of oatmeal and 3/4 cups of brown sugar. Now that is just for the crust. The date filling consists of 2 cups of pitted dates, 1/4 cups of sugar, and 2 cups of water. And then you boil that until it's thick. I've decided to purchase chopped dates. It just makes it easier, and the cooking process is a little bit faster when you make the filling. You can use whole dates and cut them up. We'll be making this in an 8.5 by 11 inch pan. I have put in some parchment paper. You don't need to do that, but I just kind of like to do it. Otherwise, you can just put the mixture in there because you're going to have quite a bit of Crisco. The first thing we're going to be doing is the mixture that's going to be on the top and the bottom. And this is really easy. Basically, you're just going to throw everything together. We've got our 1/2 cup of flour, and we have our little pinch of salt, and our little baking powder. That's all there is to that one. And we're going to blend it in with 3/4 cups of Crisco. And I'm telling you right now, I'm sticking this in the microwave, and I'm going to liquefy it. All right, now as you'll see, there are some chunks in there, but I do have it a little bit more liquefied, so it should blend in better. I know that's probably not what you should do, but I don't have very much patience, and I like to just get everything in as much as possible. So you're supposed to mix it like you would a pie. So what you normally do is cut the Crisco into the flour, which bad me I did not do, which may or may not work. We'll find out. Next, you're going to add the 3 cups of brown sugar. And cut that in. Now, some of this brown sugar is a little bit on the old side, so we're going to, which makes it a little bit harder to cut in. So I really should have just cut the Crisco in, but I didn't. You know what they say, haste makes waste. But that Crisco was just out of the refrigerator, so it wasn't at room temperature. I would suggest bringing it out at room temperature. Then it would have cut in very well. And I really need to get this broken down. You can see it's just a little bit on the hard side. It is softening up. But since this is just for me, I don't mind putting my hands in here. And it's also going into the oven at 375 degrees, which I've already preheated my oven at. So it is going to get quite a bit of heat, and it'll kill any bacteria or germs from my hands out of there. And now we put in all of this oatmeal. Now this is where a lot of times I'll just stick my hands in here and start mixing it all together. Also, I've changed this recipe over the years. The filling that they had was so thin, I thought it was ridiculous. So I don't even know, I think I doubled it. But I put a lot more dates in that called for in the original recipe. To me, what good are date bars if you don't have any dates in them? So this is a very simple recipe. So let's put about half of this in the bottom of this pan. There we go. Let's see, that should be about half. And then you press it down. We're going to do the date filling, which is 2 cups of dates, as I mentioned, 1/4 cup of sugar, and 2 cups of water. And we're going to boil it until it's thick. There. Now these are dried dates. Oh, it's starting to boil. And I always have a tendency to change my recipes. I don't like a lot of sugar, so I cut down on sugar. I may add, as I said, I have a tendency to add more dates. I'd rather have more filling than the oatmeal base. Well, I think this is about as done as it's going to get. Bring this here. I don't know. I would like it to be thicker than what it is, but let's see what happens. Now, can you imagine if I didn't make as many dates as I did? Look at how would 1 cup of dates have gone all the way to the edge? That's why I doubled the date portion. There we go. Now, put the top on. Make sure that there's plenty of that.